up, everybody? How is everybody doing today? We are here at Kansas City Alternative Podcast Collective, relaunching our interview series, and I have a fantastic special guest. This person I met him last year at a event, and since then, uh, has been an amazing, great part of my Facebook days, and our conversations that we've had have been fantastic. Um, his name is Harley Blackman, and he is the Rt66 Bear for 2022. So without further ado, I'm going to bring him on, and we are going to have a grand old time. Oh, wait, no, that's stream. What's up, Boo?
Hey, Ani.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
Are you surviving this weather? Because listen, I don't do cold.
Me neither. It just started heating up. I think we got up to the 50s in the past. This week, today was my first day going back to work. I haven't been to work since Sunday, and because it was down to 20 around that, and I can't do that cold.
We don't even like that. We don't do cold like that. It's not of God. We don't do that. But I really wanted to talk to you, and I wanted you to be the person for the soft relaunch or the reboot of our interview series, because I think that your story and your journey and what you stand for is so amazing. I'm going to go ahead and give you your flowers now, and then we can get into all the stuff. Just the type of advocate that you are, and I was there for your run when you won Bear 2022, and I was like, I like this guy. I got sitting there in that hot ass room. Ooh, it was so hot. I don't know how you did it, but sitting there, I was like, I really want to talk to this guy. I really want to sit down with him and just chop it up and just get into your head. And I have a place where I can do that. So that's what we're going to do. Is I'm going to sit here and I'm going to get into your head. So let's start off with how did you get into the leather scene, the bear scene, all of that? What was your journey like?
Okay, so I had heard I'd visited the Eagle multiple times in Dallas, and I ended up moved from Midland, Odessa to San Antonio years back, and my friend that I had met, he took me to the annex. The annex is now a parking lot now, but that's where I started at, and the people that I met there, it was a family. It was the people that were there. It was a shack of a building and like a ran down bathhouse, basically. But
that's so fun.
it was all awesome, and so that's where I started all of that, and it really came. So I was about to leave the bar, and one of my friends now, he comes up to me and whispers, "Are you looking for wabbits?" Because I was on Growler, and he's like, "So." I was like, "What? Do what?" And he's like, "Let me introduce you to the welcoming crew." And the welcoming crew is one of my close friends now, Roger. Roger out of San Antonio, Sir Roger, Daddy Roger. But that's how I came into it, and I was going to gear nights and just meeting more people. I met my first time Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. The first time I went alone. It the community was so beautiful. They were accepting of all, and that's one thing that drew me in.
It's so interesting because here in Kansas City, because you're in Texas, and that's where you live.
Yes,
but you do a lot of work in like Oklahoma City and around there as well.
Yes, I lived in Oklahoma City for about 3 years. Before that, I was a go-go boy, and Lucas LaRue, our producer, he years back, I've known him. We've seen each other grow, basically, and he got me booked at the Copa, which is now called the Living Room, and that's how I got brought into Oklahoma City as a go-go boy.
I mean, listen, do you, boo? You know what I mean? You look, you're an attractive gentleman. You know what I'm saying? Get out there and shake your thing a little bit for some change. I ain't mad at it at all. But one of the things that I always thought was interesting in my journey is I started out in the leather and king stuff on the straight side, although I was never straight. Let's get that clear. I was never a thing. But like that's how where my entrance into the community was. And I kept asking, where are the gay boys at? Like, where are they? Where are they? They're like, they don't hang out here. They have their own thing and they do their own thing. And so I had to go searching for that. And when I went to when we went and did the in Oklahoma City, it was so interesting to see how like open and welcoming the community was, and it was both the straight folk and the gay folk, and they were all together, and it was like, wow, this is what I wanted in a community. Do you find that in Texas and in Oklahoma City that it's a lot more cohesive, and that there is a lot of cross between your heterosexual leather folks and your homosexual leather folks, because there are differences in the way that they present, the way that they play, the way that they do, some of the terms they use, things like that. They are very, very different. But do you see that there's a division as much as kind of there is in Kansas City?
Well, the thing is, so kink, so the gay community, all under the umbrella part of it. So it's more accepting of people that are kinky, because the heterosexual community is not. They basically, it's hush hush. We do this behind closed doors. The gay community is like, we're here. They have the freaking fisting gloves and all the whole freaking the whole thing, the whole freaking toolbox full.
All
And
out there for everybody to see. Like, all out there. It's all there. Sometimes I'll be like, because I'm a bit of a prude, I'll be the person to admit it. I'm working on it. But, I'll see things and I'll be like, what are you doing with that? Like, I don't understand what that is for. And somebody will tell me, and I'll be like, oh, okay.
well, that's just kind of like some of the tops that I've met, and the picture doesn't match the 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 object in front of me. It's like, wow, I really talked myself up. Shit. Sheets and poppers. That's what I've got to do.
Sheets and
Sheets, a
poppers.
pillow, something. I've got to do something. Gag ball.
You gotta figure this out because something ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
I'm like, get somebody else to do it. Like,
It's like it's like in the back of my head, I'm like, don't be a little bitch. And I'm just like, squeezing the freaking the mattress, and then shoving my face in the pillow along with eating it as well.
I'm like, get somebody else to do it. I can't. I'm not doing it. Get somebody else to do it. But it's for me. I feel like one of the things that I love about the leather community and the kink community is how free and accepting they can be. They're not always, but they can be very free and accepting. And did you find that that was kind of your experience as well? Going into those spaces and being like, I don't really know anything. I don't know a lot about about what all of this is. And like, were you able to find someone that was like able to teach you, or did you kind of go my route, which was like, I just showed up to places and kept showing up until I was like, oh wait, I know things. Like,
So personally, I went there more and more, learning and learning and learning. And one of the things that I found awesome is the inclusiveness, that they accept everybody, and that's one reason why I've met so many people that are undetectable in the community. And I myself, I am on PrEP. I am negative, and it's so much more welcoming of people, because if you go into a gay pride, you run the risk of somebody saying those nasty slurs at somebody, an individual who's undetectable. And
You know,
me,
I'm clean or I'm
yeah,
this
oh
or
my
I'm
god, I
that.
can't stand those words. It pisses me off. But me, I I had a guy here in Midland, well, actually in Odessa. He was claiming that a guy put him at risk of HIV, and the guy doesn't have HIV, but he was claiming he did. I ended up writing a speech called HIV shaming. Um, and I ended up in the process when we were having that discussion. I said, "Do you know his status? Do you know if he's undetectable? Do you know any of these questions? If you don't, then you need to shut the fuck up. You don't need to be spreading around hate." And I said, even if he's undetectable, send him my way. I'll go on a date with him.
You know, and I think like to me that's one of the things that for you as someone who is negative, being such an advocate for uh, people with HIV, people with living with HIV, and being undetectable, and trying to like erase kind of that stigma among or around the idea of being HIV positive, is to me one of those things that like makes you who you are. Um, because I we grew up, and I'm not gonna, I don't know your exact age, but I know that I grew up uh, with that stigma being really, really heavy. And I was actually talking to some friends of mine that I've been friends with for like 20 years, and we talked about like people these days are so much more free and more like open with their sexuality. And I was like, you have to remember that for us, we grew up in the era of the fear of HIV and the stigma of being gay. Period. And so we were just trying to figure out how to have regular sex. You know what I mean? Like we couldn't get into what our kinks were, what our interests were, what the things that we were interested in. We didn't have the luxury of that. Whereas now, these kids have the luxury. They know that that HIV and AIDS isn't a death sentence. You know what I mean? Like they have that where we didn't necessarily have the luxury of that. And to have someone like you who is standing in the gap for those people who can't speak for themselves, to me, I think it is absolutely wonderful and beautiful. And so I want to dig into that a little bit. Tell me how your journey was getting to, because I know it's easy to say, oh, well, it's just being people, just being a good person or being a good human. Um, what was your awakening or what led you to being the advocate that you are?
Okay, so I was born in '86. I was born in San Angelo, Texas, raised in Coleman. There was a guy, a nurse, that was HIV positive. That's what my stepmother told me. Said stay away from him. It intrigued me, and I wanted to learn more. I didn't get the opportunity to because I ended up moving away. And I was when I was 19, I was in Orange, Texas, and my best friend, she got word that I had messed with somebody that basically was diagnosed recently. She called every single guy that I had talked to on her phone and on social media, which was MySpace back then, and told them
Oof.
that I had HIV.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she did that. And I tested for about a year. It killed my reputation for years. People were like, "Are you sure? Are you sure you don't have HIV?" And like, I don't care if you have HIV. And I'm like, I don't have HIV. But the more that I got into the community, the older that I got. So I never really got intimate with somebody who was undetectable until 5 or 6 years ago. And I sat a friend down because there was a guy that I was really into. He's undetectable, but he ended up dumping me. He was scared I was going to hurt him,
Oh.
and yeah, I was a little heartbroken. And Sir Roger, out of San Antonio, he came over to my hotel, and I told him, I said, I want to know more about HIV. I've learned through the clinics. I want to know more. And he said, ask away, hun, ask away. And I did, and he educated me, and um, I originally ran for my title back in 19, and I didn't, I didn't take the title home. I wasn't ready to take the title home, basically. And the reason I ran this time was I've been seeing all these negative things being said about people who are HIV positive. And I was like, it's time. I'm done. I need to get my voice out there. In order to be heard, I have to be seen.
Right.
So that's what I did. And so I've shown you my bears.
I
So
love that shirt so much.
thank you. So the reason why I created these, so I have leather bear, bear community bear, team friendly bear, pup pet bear, um, boot black bear, and if you know Briar out of Dallas, Briarwood, I believe.
I was like, I don't, but
Yeah,
I haven't been down to that to Texas yet. So
well, they were at the. I think they were actually a judge, I believe, if I remember correctly. But the boot black bear is actually designed in their image.
nice.
And then I've got my undetectable bear. He's my pride and joy. That's my baby right there. And my trans bear. But yeah, so the story behind this is I was tired of buying merch all online supporting HIV. And people who are living with HIV, long-term survivors, newly diagnosed, whatever the case. And then also the trans visibility. So I bought a shirt that was adult Care Bears, and it was off of Etsy. And I reached out to that same artist and I asked him to create me some bears. And I told him what I wanted, and he would send me a sample. And if I didn't like a certain thing on there, he would actually touch it up. And this is the final. Well, Bear Community Bear and Team Friendly Bear have been touched up since then. So the new design actually will show slightly difference. But yeah.
I love it. I think that shirt is it's so cute, and it's so, to me it encompasses, I feel like, and we can kind of get into this a little bit, but like I feel like right now where we are in the status of the gay community is, that we kind of eat ourselves alive, for lack of a better term. It's, you have like your trans, the trans community doesn't necessarily, their needs aren't necessarily getting met by the larger LGBT community. If I'm going to speak plain, the gay community really is cis fit white men, and if you don't fit that aesthetic, then you are.
Also, if you don't measure up, if you measure up and you're pretty, you'll make it a long ways in the community.
You know what I'm saying? If you got that 8+, then don't get me wrong. This ain't that kind of podcast. This ain't that kind of podcast. But anyway, so it is. If you, I always try to think about like when in the fight for marriage equality, in the fight for gay rights, who got left behind? And I always say, in my opinion, though this is my opinion, the people who got left behind were women, especially women of color, women who didn't fit that. I guess the term was lipstick lesbian or femme. The trans community, especially Black trans women, like, and the Bears created their own community. We said, okay, look, y'all don't want us, we'll figure it out on our own. And sex positive communities, because we really kind of went into this gays were just like you era. And to me, I feel like we lost part of the thing that made us special in that fight. And trying to be the Neil Patrick Harris of gay, we left out the RuPauls. And yes, RuPaul's problematic in his own way, but at the end of the day, we left a part of this community, a part of our community behind by saying we're just like everybody else, because we're not. You know what
No.
I mean? Our needs are different. Our lives are different. And I like the struggles that I go through as a Black queer man. You probably don't have those same struggles, even though we're both under that same queer umbrella. Um, and to me, I feel like we're better when we fight together than when we fight each other. But we do
Exactly.
we spend so much time fighting each other that we don't even get to, the things that where our struggles align and things that we can do together. And I think that's, for me, what that shirt represents. And I wish there was a black bear on that shirt. You know what I mean?
I'm going to eventually start. So I try not to. So somebody brought it up to my attention last night, and uh, these bears don't represent a certain gender. So that's what my one thing about this is. But I have plans for a certain style of bear because I want to do different series. And I think I'm going to incorporate different ethnicities because we do need to celebrate people of color. And because, I mean, history has kind of screwed around, especially history in this country. This country is just screwed. It's messed up. It's messed up, twisted. It's like in a blender, and you just like here's some more shit. Let's just pile it all in there, and then we just blend it all together, and then we have continuing problems.
Well, I think part of it is that we don't recognize the LGBT members in our history. We don't, as a matter of fact, I was just talking to someone about the AP African American history classes in Florida, where the governor of Florida just banned those classes. The reason that he banned them is because they had classes on queer theory and queer history in those spaces, where and that was his issue, was that they were shining a light on queer people in African American history. You're talking about, but when you kind of zoom out from that, you're talking about your Langston. It's not just Marsha P. Johnson. It's not just, like these queer Black figures that we as gay people know, but it's your Langston Hughes. It's your James Baldwin. It's people who have actually done things, who have done amazing things in the world and who are known in the world for their accomplishments. But what we don't know about them is that they were gay.
Well, the thing is, so just like Alexander the Great, we're just going to go off of, a leader. They never advertised or said that he was bisexual. He actually was.
Right.
A lot of great leaders back in the day were, whether they were closeted or they were open about it. It just depends on what era they were, or what country, what regions they were in. And they don't want to talk about it because they don't think that an actual great leader likes to do things with the same sex.
Which we know that is not the case.
And we were talking about actors. So I've got to say, I don't know if he's... so my gay actor, queer actor, whatever you want to say, he's queer. Because he's just different. Billy fucking Porter.
Love Billy Porter. Love Billy Porter.
Is like the everything. I watched him on Pose, and he actually ended up coming out about his status on one of the... I was looking up HIV. I did a lot of in-depth research, and I ended up seeing an interview on, I think it was a late night video, talk show, and about the comparison to his character, which was Raytel, and then also his real life. And, he was talking about how Praytel died and Billy Porter lived.
Right.
Basically, it was the same character. He was the same person. And Billy Porter was having to relive all of that and make himself go through it to get through it. Because sometimes in order to get through something, you have to go through that. You have to go to get out of it.
There is no, there are some, in some ways there is, especially when you are living with something like HIV, and you are, and as someone, the ironic part is both of us are sitting here are negative talking about living, um, with HIV. But I think that part of the reason that I feel like, you know, we can do that is because we've always, now you're only a couple years younger than me, but we've always had the specter of HIV in our lives. It has always been something um, that we have had to worry about.
Smaller communities. So I lived in Monroe, Louisiana, and a few others, and people. I've seen it throughout the community where people shame people for having HIV. I wasn't as outspoken as I am now. Um, I will set somebody in their place. I will educate them, and if I can't educate them and they still want to be rude, I walk away. I can't deal with it, and I'm not going to have somebody ruin my night.
Right.
And I've had many friends, many close friends. There's quite a few in Oklahoma City. This She's crazy. He's an older queen, and he looks over at me, and because somebody pulled me over, and it was over at Finish Line, which is now County Line, yeah, County Line in Oklahoma City. It's the whole old Habana, and he was like, "I have AIDS," and I was like, "Sweetheart, I'm pretty sure if you had AIDS, you'd be at home dying right now.
Right.
You wouldn't be sitting here communicating with me." And he's like, "Wow, you didn't run." And I was like, "No, we're having a conversation, and I'm human. I'm not an asshole."
Well, and I think a lot of it, I mean, it's a lot of people's reactions to HIV and AIDS is based in fear.
Hmm.
Um, and a lot of that has to do with misinformation. Misinformation that has been around for 40 years. Things and that we still don't, even 40 years on from that, have are willing to have a real conversation and actually listen to people when it comes to HIV and AIDS. When you look at the statistics, the largest population that is, or the population that's had the most growth in cases has been Black women. And then you ask, where does that come from? How do we sit down and have real conversations with people of all sexualities and say, listen, this isn't just a gay disease, because that's what people still think. There's still a segment of the population who feels like HIV is just something that the gays get.
Well, the thing is, so on statistics, I can't quote any of them, but they do go off of statistics, off of ethnicities, who's at the higher risk. And I can't remember what the numbers are off the top of my head, but there are different communities, ethnicities that actually are at a higher risk.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why it is. I don't. It could be genetics. It could be the buildup of the DNA. I don't know.
I think to me, because I've seen some of those studies. Really, it's access to healthcare.
That's very
When it
true.
comes down to it, it's having access to affordable healthcare. When you think about the way that the disease spreads, you know what I mean? Like, if you think about that in terms of like, um, if you're not going and getting to regular checkups because you can't afford to get regular checkups, because you don't know that you can get a free HIV test from your local health clinic, or you don't have access to that kind of infrastructure, um, and you're just out here raw dogging everyone around town. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with raw dogging. You
I
do.
feel very attacked right now.
Nothing wrong with raw dogging. Listen, do you have fun? But if you aren't, but if you're not doing your due diligence in, because you don't have access to doing your due diligence, or you don't know. You don't know what you're supposed to do, or you think this is never something that's going to affect me. And that's really what it comes down to is, there are people, especially in, communities of color, Black identified communities of color, HIV is something that the gays get. And if I'm not gay, I ain't got to worry about that.
Yeah. They
And
have it. It's a lot of the old fashioned, the older generation that has that mentality because they saw, because back in the 80s, whenever they were going through the 3 million different names that they were trying to call HIV and AIDS, they called it the gay cancer
mhm.
because it had a relation to cancer. And so that's why they called it a cancer, but they were only seeing gay men that were affected and being diagnosed with the virus. So that's how that came along. But um, you are absolutely correct on resources and such. So here, um, I was where the I think I was actually in Dallas, and I was about to call one of my friends, and he calls me, and he's like, you know, can you talk? And I'm on my watch, and he was like, hey, I have a friend of a friend that was just recently diagnosed. I'm like, hey, hold on. Let me get to my car. This is not a conversation for a convenience store. And because he's him and I, we click. He's got a very dry, rude personality, but he's got good intentions. He's undetectable. And so he was reaching out to me. So I had to actually get these connections for this individual that just was recently diagnosed because they wanted medication and all that other stuff. We are very limited here. And I know that I'm starting to press heymister.com because they do free testing, free prep. The doctor visit, it's all free because I believe that we may possibly have a live, unmedicated, and or possibly undiagnosed strand here in West Texas, unfortunately.
Ooh.
Hmm.
You
And
know, it's and the thing is it's and we have to be real. You know what I mean? Like we got to keep it 100 as much. Like I much like you. Like if someone started talking to me and I found out they were HIV positive, that's not going to stop me from talking to them.
no,
You
I'm
know,
gonna do a shot with them.
right?
We can drink all night, and you can meet all my friends.
Right. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna do a
If
but
they're around shitty people, I will pull them away from them
right.
and put them in a better, positive, uplifting environment rather than them having to feel sorry for themselves all night. No, we ain't gonna
Right.
do that.
It's
Not tonight.
yeah, right. Now this isn't the night, but it is something that is potentially life changing. You know what I mean? Like it is a thing, and we have to. What we have to do is learn how to be empathetic with people.
Hey, can I get?
I don't want to be like I don't want to say, oh, I feel sorry for you because you've got because you're HIV positive, because I don't feel sorry. Not that I don't, because I don't feel anything. Like you're still a human being. I don't want to be like, oh, I feel so bad for you, or and that's kind of one of the two things the two reactions that seem to happen when we find out that that someone is positive. And I would love to if you guys are watching in the comments, feel free to chime in.
Hey, can you give me 1 second?
Absolutely.
Okay, be right back. 1 second.
What are you guys thinking so far? Are you guys enjoying the conversation? Let's talk. Do you guys have any questions that you would like to be answered? We're here, we're hanging out and having a good old time. Don't be looking at my background, Eva. Come on, y'all say hi. All right. Yo, we gonna get into so much stuff tonight. You know, we just starting, off. Oh, I just realized I hope y'all can hear me this whole time. My microphone was way over there. I ought to be ashamed of myself.
Okay, sorry about that. I could smell my food burning.
Oh no, girl, I completely understand. We don't play around when it comes to food. Matter of fact, we got about 10 more minutes, and then we gonna have to cancel this because my food is sitting out there in the living room, and I'm finna tear it up. But no, so I want to kind of jump off of that, and let's talk about your journey into Rt66 Bear. I know you said you ran in 2019, but you wasn't. But you weren't able to. You didn't make it at that point. Tell me, how did it feel winning? Like, I know that it was
mind blowing. It was everything. So I was scared because I was the only one that actually competed,
right,
and you still have to make points because in order to actually get the title, because it's a national title, not just like a bar title.
right.
And I hugged a few people, and then the waterworks just turned on, and the sprinklers just all coming down. It still it still brings me joy that night because it's like I get to speak up, and I know that you don't always have to have a title to actually get your voice heard, but it helps me to actually get places faster because I want to create communities out here in West Texas. I want to bring HIV to the spotlight. I want to bring it to the ballroom and just make everybody see it. Like, come and look. It's here. Because I'm one of those people that will talk about topics that people feel uncomfortable about. Because if they're uncomfortable, that'll actually get them a little educated and get them to actually open up.
I love an uncomfortable conversation. That's my favorite.
It's
Give me
fun.
all the cringe, not even in like I want to educate you kind of way, but just because I think cringiness is fun. Shout out to you, Hawkeye. You're beautiful, and I love you. Just wanted to throw that out there. But because like being there, I could tell, and it's funny because when when I was there and they were like, yeah, there's only one person for that's running for mayor, I was like, well, then they won. And they're like, nope, that ain't how that works. I said, how embarrassing could it be for you to run unopposed for a title and still lose?
Lose to myself. I was extremely nervous about it, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna lose," and I won, and I bawled for a good while. I was in happiness. It was just everything.
It was such a like the speech that you gave was so like mind blowing. Like and like it touched me. I am not a person who gets emotional. The only emotion I have is anger. And I don't even really have that. But that actually, like, your speech actually made me kind of tear up a little bit. And I was like, who is this person who's making me feel things? I don't like it. And it's and again, coming from someone who isn't positive, you know what I mean, but feels those has such a big heart that you made us feel it. You know what I mean? Like, to the point where I was like, you don't ever want to be. Didn't want to be like, is he positive? I'm like, but you're so passionate, and usually people who are that passionate about activism and advocacy are people who are living with those struggles. And
Yes.
to have someone, like you, who's so passionate and so, so in the trenches as just an ally, like, to me, that is what allyship means. It means I don't have to be going through what they're going through, to understand what that pain is, and to fight for those people.
I want to. So people told me about Freddie Mercury. I didn't know off the top of my head. I knew who Queen was, but I didn't know that was in relation.
Right.
And I ended up watching Bohemian Rhapsody, and then I was like on a whole binge. I still love Queen. Freddie Mercury's the Queen, and just seeing him, it's horrible. Like, the movie does no justice to actually what he looked like in the very ending. Because like the music videos, he watched them, and he was from full face to actually just thinning out, and it's painful to see.
Right.
And all the people that we lost, the hundreds of thousands of people that we lost, that were famous, not famous, that were people that people loved, and then people that were unknown. I would have been in their hospital bed beside them, probably in the same freaking hospital with them, the next bed.
What
But I want to carry that torch and keep their legacies alive. That's the thing. I don't want their voices to go forgotten.
It's one of those things for me, because I think my first knowing someone who was HIV positive wasn't even like someone who was gay or queer, or the first like major news story I heard about it was Ryan White. And I think that's when Ryan White was the kid who got
with the blood transfusion.
blood transfusion.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of what made, to me, that's what made people stop looking at HIV as just a gay disease.
It's a bloodborne pathogen. So I work in manual labor. I work in oil field, manual labor, whatever. We have classes on bloodborne pathogens, and HIV is part of that. And I've had instructors tell me that you can get it from mouth to mouth, and I've stood up and I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. It's a bloodborne pathogen. The only way that you're going to get it from oral is if y'all both have cuts, and if that person is like detectable. Like, there's a very low risk, because catching HIV through oral usually does not happen. Usually, like if you're giving pleasure to somebody that is,
you could say sucking dick. It is what it is.
Okay, but usually the acids will break that shit down.
Right.
Usually, and the rectum is a sponge, and that's why it transfers so fast, is because the breakage and everything. So whenever people are actually having sex, they prefer you to wear a condom, but if you're not going to, use plenty of lubrication and relax, because if you do,
can't be out here dry hunching.
No, shit, that shit hurts. Cut or uncut, it hurts.
You can't be out here dry hunching. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be.
You're going to feel it the next day. Both of you will.
You can't just be using Jergens lotion and never mind. We're not.
What we used was Vaseline.
Ooh, not the Vaseline.
Back in the day.
That's a conversation for our later for another podcast that we may do later on, where we'll talk about that stuff.
So you mentioned my speech. So one of my friends, he's like a brother to me, Brandon Pickett out of Oklahoma City. He actually helped me with my speech, and because I told him what I wanted, I gave him a rough outline of what I wanted, and he edited it down. And he's been undetectable for many, many years. His fiance is HIV negative, and he said he's really going to say that on stage. He was like, I would not be able to do that. I was like, that's because I am who I am. I every piece on here. So the heart is actually from the UK. It's a 40th anniversary of the HIV/AIDS crisis. I ended up ordering all of that. And then you have act up, undetected, or you equals you, silence equals death. I mean, it's part of me. It's part of who I am. Whether I am undetectable or if I'm HIV negative, I would still fight the same fight. And I wanted it to be somebody that's from across the other side of the river, the ocean, the tracks, whatever you want to say, whatever terminology you want to use. I wanted to, because as I said, so the two people that I find the most inspirational as educators are, as we've spoke a few times, is Russell out of your area. Russell is a huge inspiration to me. Like, he's a fucking superhero. And
that man got a story. You hear me?
he came in at the very end of my class, and I'm already struggling because I'm like nervous, and then I see this beautiful man, and I'm like drooling. I'm like, and he was talking about how he does classes and such, and we were speaking on Grindr, and I didn't realize until later it was him, and I was like, how you doing?
How you doing?
But yeah, it's Russell, Daddy Russell, and I call him that, Daddy Russell, and Dave Watt of Team Friendly. Those are my two people that I find inspiration in the education. They are wonderful people. Dave Watt actually started Team Friendly. He ran, I believe it was in 2008, 2009 for Mr. Michigan Leather. And he actually took the title, and he spent his title year passing out pins and his ideas for Team Friendly. He ran it in his speech, actually. And Mr. Friendly was the logo, which is, oh, camera's backwards. This one right here.
Yep.
And I still have my original pin that I had because it's, it's kind of memory. It's so freaking old, but it's there. But yeah, inspirational people of the HIV/AIDS community. HIV/AIDS a stigma, education. It's people that I look up to.
Well, I want to say that you are one of the people that I look up to in the community. I really enjoy and I'm really like, I am proud to know you and know your activism, and you inspire me to get up and do the things that I want to do and stand in my own activism and my own advocacy. So thank you very much. Where can people find your sexy ass if you want to be, to be seen?
So Lone Star Bearby is my tagline on Instagram, and Harley Blackman is Facebook. And I also have my my title page attached to that.
Okay. So make sure you guys, if you don't know who this is, or you're not connected to him, get connected. Ask him questions. This is a font of fantastic resources. We have had some really great conversations. As a matter of fact, I was just thinking about the other day, in Wichita, when we did the
Bloodline
intensive, and I was like, I should have had you come to the house with us rather than hanging out with them, because we just sat and chilled all night. Like, we didn't do any of the bloodline stuff.
I know y'all were here and there, and Mark and I actually spoke, because like about you, because I've told him, about you doing an interview with, I'm doing an interview with you, and I told him, I was like, he has such a beautiful spirit, a beautiful personality. It's different and welcoming and all good things.
Don't tell people that I'm an evil hoe. I'm not a hoe. Let's start there. I'm not that. I'm an evil bitch. But no, it's like, for me, I just treat people the way I want to be treated. You know what I mean? I love hearing people's stories. I want to know, I want to know all the dirty, gritty secrets. I want to know where it all comes from, because it makes you who you are. I love, like, we definitely will sit down and do this again, because I didn't get nearly as much of the stuff I wanted to get. I'm gonna pull more from you. But
Sounds great. Hey, so I will be creating communities. You are the Kansas community is welcome here. Everybody is going to be welcome here, but I'm going to be bringing people in from all over the community, title holders, non-title holders, people that are big in the community, people that are not, and y'all are welcome here. The entire Kansas community has been welcome to me, welcoming to me, and I want to reciprocate that after I get everything up, because I'm going to start with gear nights at a bar in Odessa if they will allow it, and I'm going to try to open up. I'm going to work on, after stepping down, opening a team friendly chapter here. I'm hoping that I can get so there's a local sister here, and I told her that if she wants to open up a chapter here, a sister's house, that I'm 100% on board. So
you trying to do everything. Listen, I love it.
I am.
I love it.
I want this community to thrive. We've got the oil field money here. We just need somebody to actually use the power and put it back in the community and make it rise up and bring it back.
I hear you. Well, Harley, thank you so much for being the first guest on the reboot of KCAPC interviews.
Thank you so much for inviting me and having me.
It's been my honor. And guys, do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe and share it to all your friends. We need to run these numbers up. You know what I'm saying? This is a numbers game. And you know, the YouTube algorithm be playing in my face, and I don't appreciate it. So we're gonna have to get these numbers up. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, maybe next week, for our next interview. But again, love you guys so much. Thank you, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.